The massive chamber stretched for miles in every direction, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Delegates from across the galaxy filled the floating seats that hovered in perfect formation around the central speaking platform. Today was application day, and dozens of species waited to hear if they would be accepted into the Galactic Council. Ambassador Krill adjusted his ceremonial robes and looked down at the datapad in his clawed hands. The Drakmori had been members of the Council for over 3,000 years, and he took his duties seriously. His crystalline features caught the light as he reviewed the next application with growing amusement. Next, we have the humans from a planet called Earth, he announced, his voice carrying across the chamber through advanced translation systems. They claim to be what they call a warrior species. A ripple of laughter passed through the assembled delegates. The reptilian Commander Thess from the Saurian Confederacy hissed with amusement. "Warriors, let me see their military records." The holographic display above the platform flickered to life, showing images from Earth's submission video. Human soldiers marched in formation, carrying what appeared to be metal tubes. The aliens watched as these humans fired small projectiles at targets, the weapons producing visible flashes and smoke. "They still use chemical propulsion for their weapons," observed Hive Queen Zara, her insectoid voice buzzing with disbelief. "My people abandoned such primitive technology 15,000 years ago." More images appeared showing human conflicts. Explosions bloomed across battlefields as humans threw crude bombs at each other. Their vehicles moved on wheels instead of hovering, and their aircraft required wings to stay airborne. "Look at this," Commander Thess pointed at the display. "They wear heavy armor because their own weapons can harm them. They need protection from their own technology." The delegates watched footage of human space exploration with growing incredulity. The humans celebrated reaching their own moon as if it were a major achievement. Their spacecraft were crude metal cylinders that burned chemical fuel, leaving trails of fire as they struggled against gravity. "They have not even established a permanent presence on their neighboring planets," Krill noted, reading from the application. "Their fastest ships would take them thousands of years to reach even the nearest star system. What do they propose to contribute to the Council?" asked Delegate Moore from the Ethereal Collective. His energy-based form flickering with curiosity, Krill consulted his datapad again. "They offer their knowledge of warfare and their willingness to serve as soldiers for the Council's peacekeeping forces." The chamber erupted in laughter. The idea that these primitive beings could offer military assistance to civilizations that had conquered entire star systems was absurd. The Drakmori alone controlled 47 worlds, each defended by energy shields and plasma cannons that could destroy continents. "Their largest weapons appear to be missiles that can destroy cities," Commander Thess observed. "We have handheld devices more powerful than their greatest bombs." The display showed more footage of human military exercises. The humans struggled, with the recoil from their own weapons, their bodies jerking backward with each shot. They moved slowly across battlefields, weighed down by equipment and supplies. "They require constant supplies of food and water," noted Zara. "Their soldiers cannot function for more than a few days without resupply." "How inefficient." "Their reaction time is also remarkably slow," added Moore. "Watch how long it takes them to respond to threats." The delegates observed humans in combat situations, noting how they required several seconds to process information and react. Their movements seemed clumsy compared to the fluid grace of more advanced species. "They have no energy weapons, no force fields, no faster-than-light communication," Krill summarized. "Their technology is barely sufficient for survival on their own world." "Do they have any special abilities?" asked Delegate Vex from the Quantum Consortium. "Enhanced strength, telepathy, energy manipulation?" "None," Krill replied. "They appear to be entirely biological with no augmentations. Their physical capabilities are unremarkable by galactic standards." The footage continued showing human attempts at diplomacy. Their negotiations were lengthy and inefficient, requiring translators and written agreements. They had no hive mind, no shared consciousness, no ability to communicate through energy patterns. They cannot even agree among themselves. Observed Zara. Their planet is divided into hundreds of separate nations, each with different goals and customs. Yet they claim to be warriors, Commander Thess mused. What makes them think they are suited for combat? The display showed human soldiers training. Their movements precise but limited by biology. They climbed obstacles, ran long distances, and practiced with their primitive weapons. Their dedication was evident, but their capabilities seemed laughable compared to cybernetically enhanced soldiers or energy-based life forms. They have been fighting wars for their entire recorded history, Krill noted. Perhaps constant conflict has convinced them they are skilled at it. Fighting with sticks and stones hardly qualifies as warfare. Thess replied dismissively. The application video concluded with a message from Earth's leaders, expressing hope for peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. The human speaker, a middle-aged woman with graying hair, spoke earnestly about Earth's desire to contribute to galactic civilization. They seem sincere, admitted Moore. But sincerity does not compensate for technological inferiority. Krill looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. The question before us is whether to accept Earth's application for council membership. Their technological level is clearly insufficient for full membership, but we could offer them protectorate status. Why waste the resources? Asked Vex. They have nothing to offer us. Their planet has no strategic value, their technology is primitive, and their military capabilities are non-existent. They might provide entertainment, suggested Zara with amusement. Their quaint customs and simple technology could be studied by our anthropologists. I propose we classify them as a Class 7 primitive species, Krill announced. We will place their application in the archives for review in 1,000 years. Perhaps by then they will have developed something resembling actual civilization. The vote was unanimous. Not a single delegate saw any value in immediate contact with Earth. The humans would remain isolated, unaware that their application had been reviewed, and rejected by beings who considered them little more than clever animals. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out of the chamber, casual conversation turned to more pressing matters. Wars between advanced civilizations, trade disputes over exotic matter, and the ongoing expansion of the galactic frontier demanded attention. Earth and its inhabitants were forgotten almost immediately, filed away as an amusing footnote in the Council's vast records. The humans would continue their simple existence, unaware that they had been judged and found wanting by the very beings they hoped to join. The galaxy moved on. Its attention focused on species and civilizations that actually mattered. The joke about human warriors would be remembered only as a brief source of entertainment, a reminder of how primitive some corners of the universe remained. None of the delegates could have imagined that their dismissive laughter would soon turn to stunned silence. The mining world of Kepler 186f spun slowly in the light of its red dwarf star, its surface scarred by decades of industrial extraction. Massive excavators worked day and night, pulling precious metals from the planet's crust while automated. Systems processed the raw materials into refined products bound for the galactic market. Deep in the planetary mines, something went wrong. The first sign of trouble came when the seismic monitors began registering unusual vibrations from the deepest tunnels. Mining supervisor Vector studied the readings with growing concern, his crystalline features reflecting the glow of the control room displays. The vibrations are getting stronger, reported his assistant, a younger Drakmori named Locke. They are coming from Sector 7, near the old excavation sites. Vector nodded grimly. Sector 7 had been abandoned months ago when the miners encountered unstable rock formations. The area was sealed off, but the tunnels still connected to the active mining areas. If something was moving down there, it could pose a serious threat to the entire operation. Increase security patrols in all sectors, he ordered. And activate the emergency beacon? If we have Ravagers moving through the old tunnels, we need to evacuate immediately. The Ravagers were the nightmare of every mining operation on the frontier worlds. These massive predators lived in the deep underground caves, hunting in coordinated packs that could strip a facility bare in hours. Their acid-spitting attacks could melt through the strongest metals, and their pack-hunting tactics had destroyed more than a dozen mining operations across the sector. As Vector coordinated the emergency response, proximity alarms began sounding from the planet's upper atmosphere. A ship was approaching, but it was not responding to traffic control signals. The vessel appeared to be in distress, its trajectory erratic and its engines failing. Unknown vessel, this is Kepler 186F mining station. Vector transmitted on the emergency frequency. Your approach vector is unstable. Please respond. The reply came through crackling static. This is Captain Tom Bradley of the Earth vessel. Endeavor, we have suffered catastrophic engine failure and are attempting emergency landing. Request immediate assistance. Vector paused, checking his species database. Earth was listed as a Class 7 primitive species, barely worth acknowledgement. What were they doing in this sector of space? Earth vessel, you are not authorized for travel in this region, he replied. However, we will provide emergency assistance as required by galactic law. The human ship crashed 2 kilometers from the mining facility, its hull crumpling against the rocky surface. Emergency teams rushed to the crash site expecting to find primitive beings requiring basic medical care. Instead, they found 3 humans who were already working to extract supplies from their damaged vessel. Captain Bradley was a compact man with graying hair and steady eyes. He moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to command, directing his crew with quiet efficiency. Engineer Lisa Chun worked to salvage critical equipment while medic David Park tended to minor injuries sustained in the crash. We appreciate the rescue, Bradley told Vector when the mining supervisor arrived at the crash site. Our navigation systems malfunctioned during a routine survey mission. We were trying to reach the nearest friendly port when our engines failed. Vector studied the humans with curiosity. They were smaller than most galactic species, but they moved with purpose and seemed remarkably calm considering their situation. Their ship was indeed primitive, but it had survived a crash that would have killed most beings. You will remain at our facility until arrangements can be made for your transport, Vector decided. However, you must understand that this is a restricted mining operation. You will not be permitted to observe our activities. Understood, Bradley replied. We are grateful for your hospitality. The humans were given quarters in the facility's guest section, a rarely used area designed for visiting inspectors. The Drakmori workers found them endlessly amusing, pointing and laughing at their primitive equipment and simple clothing. The humans endured the mockery with patience, seemingly unaware that they were considered little more than clever animals. For 2 days, the humans remained in their quarters, emerging only for meals and basic necessities. They asked no questions about the mining operation and made no demands beyond basic survival needs. Vector found their behavior surprisingly courteous, unlike the arrogant demands of most species seeking assistance. On the 3rd day, the seismic monitors exploded with activity. The vibrations from Sector 7 had intensified dramatically, and scanner readings showed massive movement in the deep tunnels. Vector's worst fears were confirmed when the first Ravager broke through the sealed barriers and entered the active mining areas. The creature was enormous, standing 3 meters tall with 6 powerful legs and an armored carapace that gleamed with natural oils. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of razor-sharp teeth, and specialized glands along its neck prepared to spray corrosive acid. Behind it, the scanners detected at least 20 more Ravagers moving through the tunnel system. Emergency evacuation, Vector ordered, his voice carrying across the facility's communication system. All personnel to the reinforced shelters. This is not a drill. The Drakmori workers abandoned their equipment and rushed toward the facility's central core, where reinforced barriers and emergency supplies waited. The automated defense systems activated, sending plasma bursts toward the approaching Ravagers. But the creatures were too numerous and too aggressive. In the chaos of evacuation, the 3 humans were forgotten, while the Drakmori workers sealed Themselves in the reinforced shelter, Bradley and his crew found themselves alone in the facility's outer sections, with dozens of deadly predators approaching through the mining tunnels. "We need to reach the shelter," Chun observed, studying the facility's layout on her portable scanner. "Too late," Bradley replied, watching the defense monitors as Ravagers poured into the mining areas. "They've cut off the main corridors." "We are on our own?" Park checked his medical supplies and looked around the facility's equipment areas. "We have mining tools, industrial chemicals, and basic construction materials, not much to work with." Bradley studied the facility's defenses and the approaching Ravagers with the analytical mind of a professional soldier. The automated systems were already failing, their plasma weapons ineffective against the creature's natural armor. The facility's layout created numerous choke points, but they were designed for mining efficiency, not defense. "We cannot reach the shelter," he decided. "But we can make a stand here. If we can hold them off long enough, maybe the evacuation ships will arrive." Chun looked at him with concern. "Tom, there are dozens of them. We have 3 sidearms and whatever we can improvise from mining equipment. Then we had better get creative," Bradley replied, his voice calm despite the approaching danger. "We have fought worse odds before." The 3 humans began preparing their defense, using mining equipment to create barriers and improvised weapons. They worked with quiet efficiency, their movements coordinated by years of training and shared experience. Behind them, the Ravagers continued their advance, their hungry roars echoing through the facility's corridors in the reinforced shelter. Vector watched the security monitors with growing dread. The humans had been left behind in the evacuation, trapped in the outer sections with no hope of survival. He felt a strange pang of guilt, knowing that these beings would die because of his people's oversight. "Should we attempt a rescue?" asked Locke, studying the tactical display. "Impossible," Vector replied. "The Ravagers have surrounded the outer sections. Any rescue attempt would only result in more casualties." The first Ravager entered the facility's main corridors, its acid spray melting through the reinforced barriers like paper. More creatures followed, their pack-hunting instincts driving them toward the scent of prey. The human's fate was sealed, but on the security monitors, something unexpected was happening. Instead of hiding or attempting to flee, the 3 humans were moving toward the approaching Ravagers with weapons in hand. They had turned the facility's industrial equipment into improvised defenses, and they were preparing to fight against impossible odds. Katar watched in fascination as the humans began their last stand. The first Ravager rounded the corner with liquid grace, its 6 legs carrying the massive predator forward with surprising speed. Acid dripped from its extended mouthparts, sizzling against the metal floor and leaving smoking holes in the reinforced plating. Behind it, the sounds of the approaching pack echoed through the facility's corridors like thunder. Bradley crouched behind an overturned mining cart, his sidearm steady in his hands. The weapon looked pathetic compared to the approaching monster, but he had learned long ago that size meant nothing in combat. Accuracy and timing were everything. "Wait for my signal," he whispered to Chun and Park, who had taken positions on either side of the corridor. They had spent the last hour turning the facility's mining equipment into improvised weapons, creating a kill zone that would funnel the Ravagers into their line of fire. The Ravager paused, its head swiveling as it searched for prey. Its multiple eyes glowed with predatory intelligence, and its acid glands pulsed with deadly purpose. For a moment, human and alien regarded each other across the industrial corridor. Bradley fired 3 shots in rapid succession, each bullet finding its mark in the creature's eyes. The Ravager screamed in pain and rage, its body convulsing as it thrashed blindly. Acid sprayed wildly, melting equipment and walls, but the creature could no longer aim its attacks. "Now!" Bradley shouted, and Chun triggered the improvised explosive she had rigged from mining charges. The blast brought down a section of the ceiling, crushing the wounded Ravager and partially blocking the corridor. But the sound of the explosion only attracted more predators. Park moved quickly to the next defensive position, carrying his medical supplies and the portable scanner they were using to track the Ravager's movements. 6 more approaching from the north tunnel, he reported. They are learning to avoid the blocked passage. Good, Bradley replied, checking his remaining ammunition. That means they are smart enough to change tactics, but it also means they are predictable. The next wave of Ravagers approached more cautiously, their pack-hunting instincts warning them of danger. But Bradley had anticipated this. He had positioned Chin at a flanking position with another improvised explosive, while Park covered the rear with one of the facility's industrial cutting tools. The Ravagers entered the corridor in formation, their acid attacks melting through the barricades that Bradley had erected. But the barriers were not meant to stop the creatures, only to channel them into the kill zone. As the pack advanced, Chun detonated her second explosive, bringing down more ceiling material and trapping 3 Ravagers under tons of debris. The surviving predators adapted quickly, splitting up to attack from multiple directions. Bradley found himself facing 2 Ravagers simultaneously, their acid attacks forcing him to abandon his position. He rolled behind a mining support beam as corrosive liquid ate through the metal floor. Where he had been standing, Park appeared from the side passage, the industrial cutting tool in his hands modified to fire high-pressure streams of superheated plasma. The improvised weapon caught the first Ravager in the side, burning through its armored carapace and dropping it to the floor. The second creature turned toward this new threat, giving Bradley the opening he needed. 3 more shots from his sidearm and the corridor was temporarily clear, but the scanner showed dozens more Ravagers approaching from the deeper tunnels. The humans were holding their ground, but they were vastly outnumbered. We need to fall back to the equipment bay, Bradley decided. The narrower passages will limit their ability to flank us. The 3 humans moved through the facility with practiced efficiency, carrying their improvised weapons and the critical supplies they had salvaged. Behind them, the Ravagers followed, their pack-hunting instincts driving them to pursue their prey. In the equipment bay, Chun worked quickly to rig more explosives while Park set up a medical station using industrial chemicals and basic supplies. Bradley studied the facility's layout, looking for advantages they could exploit. The power conduits run through this section, Chun observed. If I can overload them, we might be able to create an electrical barrier. Do it, Bradley replied, then turned to Park. How are our supplies holding up? Limited ammunition, but plenty of industrial materials, Park reported. I can treat minor injuries, but if any of us take a direct acid hit, there is not much I can do. The next attack came from 3 directions simultaneously. The Ravagers had learned from their previous encounters, approaching through maintenance tunnels and ventilation shafts to avoid the humans' kill zones. Bradley found himself separated from his crew, facing 2 Ravagers with only his sidearm and whatever tools he could grab. The first Ravager charged, its acid spray melting through a support beam inches from Bradley's head. He dove behind the industrial processor, using the massive machine as cover while he returned fire. His shots were precise, aimed at the creature's vulnerable spots, but the Ravager's natural armor deflected most of the damage. Chun's electrical barrier activated, sending high-voltage current through the floor and walls. The Ravagers screamed as the electricity coursed through their bodies, but their insulated feet and natural resistance limited the damage. The barrier bought the humans precious seconds, but it would not hold for long. Park had improvised a new weapon from the facility's chemical storage tanks, creating a compressed spray system that fired industrial solvents. The chemicals were not designed for combat, but they proved effective against the Ravager's acid-resistant carapaces. His improvised weapon dissolved the protective coating, making the creatures vulnerable to conventional attacks. The battle raged for hours, with the humans falling back through the facility's corridors and chambers. They used every piece of equipment, every chemical, every tool they could find. Mining lasers became sniper rifles, chemical tanks became bombs, and industrial processors became fortress walls. What amazed the watching Drakmori was not just the humans' refusal to surrender, but their ability to adapt and improvise. When their ammunition ran low, they switched to melee weapons made from mining tools. When the Ravagers learned to avoid their traps, the humans immediately developed new tactics. Bradley demonstrated combat leadership that surpassed anything in the galactic military databases. He coordinated his small team with perfect efficiency, always staying one step ahead of the Ravagers' pack-hunting strategies. His calm voice over the communication system guided Chun and Park through the chaos, turning their desperate defense into a coordinated military operation. Chun showed engineering brilliance that would have impressed the galaxy's top technical minds. She turned mining equipment into weapons, industrial chemicals into explosives, and power systems into defensive barriers. Her modifications were crude but effective, proving that innovation mattered more than advanced technology. Park combined medical knowledge with tactical awareness, treating injuries while maintaining combat effectiveness. He used his understanding of biology to identify the Ravagers' weak points, turning his medical scanner into a targeting system that guided their attacks. But what truly shocked the Drakmori observers was the humans' refusal to abandon their fallen enemies. When the initial explosion had trapped several Drakmori workers in a collapsed section, the humans risked their lives to rescue them. Park used his medical training to treat alien physiology he had never encountered, while Bradley and Chun fought off Ravagers to protect the wounded. "They are trying to save us," Vector whispered, watching the monitors in disbelief. "They are fighting to protect beings who showed them nothing but contempt." The final assault came at dawn, when the Ravagers launched a coordinated attack from every entrance to the equipment bay. The humans were exhausted, their improvised weapons nearly depleted, their defensive positions crumbling. But they continued to fight, their determination unbroken by hours of combat. Bradley made his final tactical decision, ordering Chen to overload the facility's main reactor. The explosion would destroy the entire complex, killing the Ravagers but also taking the lives of everyone inside. It was a choice no other species would have made, sacrificing themselves to save beings who had dismissed them as primitive. But as Chun worked to initiate the overload sequence, the reinforced shelter doors opened. Vector emerged, followed by every Drakmori worker in the facility. They carried mining equipment converted into weapons, their crystalline faces set with determination. "We will not let you die alone," Vector declared, his voice carrying across the communication system. "You fought to save us. Now we fight together." The combined human Drakmori force made their stand in the equipment bay, two species fighting as one against the Ravager horde. The humans' tactics combined with the Drakmori's superior technology created a devastating combination that finally drove off the surviving predators. As the last Ravager retreated into the deep tunnels, Vector looked at the three battered humans with newfound respect. These primitive beings had not only saved his entire crew, but had shown courage and tactical brilliance that challenged everything the galaxy believed about their species. The security recordings would tell the story of humanity's true nature to the entire galaxy. The transmission reached Drakmori High Command 17 hours after the battle ended. High Admiral Kethvar received the emergency communication in his crystalline office overlooking the capital world's primary spaceport, where ships from across the Empire arrived and departed in endless streams. "Priority 1 message from Mining Station Kepler 186F, his aide announced. "Supervisor Vector reports successful defense against major Ravager incursion with unexpected assistance from Class 7 primitive species." Kethvar paused in his review of fleet deployment reports. Class 7 species were barely considered sentient by most galactic standards. The idea that they could provide meaningful assistance in a military situation was absurd. "Send me the full report," he ordered, his curiosity overriding his skepticism. The data packet that arrived 30 minutes later contained not just Vector's written report, but complete security footage from the mining facility. Kethvar settled back in his chair, expecting to review a routine rescue operation where primitive beings had perhaps carried supplies or provided basic labor. Instead, he found himself watching the most remarkable military operation he had ever witnessed. The footage began with the three humans trapped in the facility's outer sections, abandoned during the evacuation. Kethvar expected to see panic, confusion, or desperate attempts to hide. Instead, he watched Captain Bradley calmly assess the situation and begin organizing a defense. Impossible, Kethvar muttered as the humans began converting mining equipment into weapons. Their modifications were crude but effective, showing an understanding of both engineering and tactical principles that surpassed many trained military units. The first engagement left him stunned. The humans did not simply fight the Ravagers. They outmaneuvered them. Bradley's positioning forced the creatures into kill zones, while Chen's improvised explosives created strategic advantages. Their coordination was flawless, their timing perfect, but what truly amazed the High Admiral was their adaptability. When the Ravagers changed tactics, the humans immediately developed counter-strategies. When their ammunition ran low, they switched to improvised weapons without missing a beat. When their defensive positions were compromised, they fell back to pre-planned secondary positions. "Get me the tactical analysis department," Kethvar ordered his aide. "I want a complete breakdown of these combat recordings." The analysis took 6 hours to complete, involving the Empire's top military minds and advanced computer systems. The results were unprecedented. The humans had demonstrated tactical abilities that matched or exceeded the galaxy's elite military units, using primitive equipment and improvised weapons. "Their response time to changing battlefield conditions is remarkable," reported Chief Analyst Morvek. "They adapt new strategies faster than our own Special Forces units. Their weapon improvisation shows engineering creativity we have not seen in any species," added Technical Specialist Rendar. "They turned industrial equipment into effective military hardware in minutes." But the most shocking revelation came from the psychological analysis. They fought not just to survive, but to protect the Drakmori workers who had shown them contempt, noted behavioral specialist Vekrin. Their willingness to sacrifice themselves for hostile aliens indicates a moral code that prioritizes group survival over individual interests. Kethvar reviewed the footage again, focusing on the final hours of the battle. The humans were exhausted, outnumbered, and nearly out of ammunition. Any rational being would have sought shelter and waited for rescue. Instead, they continued fighting, using their bodies as shields to protect injured Drakamori workers. "They were prepared to die for us," he realized, watching Bradley order the reactor overload sequence. They would have destroyed themselves to save beings who treated them as inferior. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Council had dismissed humans as primitive and harmless, but the footage showed beings with military capabilities that could threaten any civilization. Their technology might be basic, but their tactical thinking was sophisticated beyond anything in the galactic databases. "Prepare a priority transmission to the Galactic Council," Kethvar ordered. Classification: immediate strategic reassessment required. The message reached the council chambers within hours, interrupting a routine trade negotiation between the Saurian Confederacy and the Ethereal Collective. Ambassador Krill received the transmission with irritation, expecting another minor border dispute or resource allocation request. High Admiral Kethvar requests emergency session for reassessment of human classification, his aide reported. He claims they represent potential strategic threat to galactic stability. Krill's crystalline features reflected his disbelief. The humans? The primitive beings who fight with metal projectiles. What possible threat could they represent? The Admiral has included security footage from a recent incident, the aide continued. He suggests the footage speaks for itself. The emergency session convened 6 hours later, with delegates arriving from across the galaxy. The chamber buzzed with speculation about what could possibly require such urgency regarding a Class 7 species. Commander Thess arrived expecting to review another amusing example of primitive behavior. Instead, the assembled delegates found themselves watching footage that challenged everything they believed about human capabilities. The security recordings played on the central display, showing 3 humans fighting off dozens of Ravagers with improvised weapons and tactical brilliance. "This cannot be accurate," Thess hissed, watching Bradley coordinate the defense with professional efficiency. Our intelligence reports indicate humans have no advanced military training. The footage is genuine, Krill replied, his voice tight with concern. Drakmori security systems are incapable of falsification. What we are seeing represents actual human combat capabilities. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the battle progressed. The humans' ability to adapt and improvise was unlike anything in their military databases. Their weapons were primitive, but their use of those weapons was sophisticated beyond galactic standards. They are not just fighting, observed Hive Queen Zara, her insectoid form trembling with realization. They are thinking strategically, planning multiple moves ahead, anticipating enemy responses. Look at their coordination, added Delegate Moore from the Ethereal Collective. They function as a perfect unit despite having no telepathic or technological connection. Their synchronization is natural, instinctive. The footage continued showing the humans' refusal to abandon the injured Drakmori workers. Park risked his life to treat alien physiology he had never encountered, while Bradley and Chin fought off ravagers to protect beings who had shown them nothing but contempt. They are fighting to save their enemies, Vex from the Quantum Consortium observed with amazement. They are willing to die for beings who considered them inferior. The final scenes showed the combined human-Drakmori force driving off the ravagers, with the three humans standing bloodied but victorious among the beings they had saved. The tactical display showed casualty ratios that would have been impossible for any known military unit. 3 individuals held off 47 ravagers, Krill announced, his voice hollow with disbelief. They killed or wounded 31 enemies while protecting 12 allied personnel. Their casualty ratios exceed our elite special forces units. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were not primitive warriors stumbling through combat. They were natural soldiers with instinctive tactical abilities that surpassed trained military professionals. If 3 humans can achieve these results with improvised weapons, Commander Thess said slowly, what could their entire species accomplish with proper equipment and training? The question hung in the air like a threat. Earth's population numbered in the billions, all of them sharing the same genetic heritage as the 3 individuals who had just redefined galactic military expectations. We need to reconsider our classification system, Krill announced, and we need to do it immediately. The emergency session continued through the night, with delegates reviewing every aspect of human behavior shown in the footage. The beings they had dismissed as primitive jokes were revealed as potentially the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but they had also shown a moral code that prevented them from attacking those who had wronged them. The question now was whether that moral code would protect the galaxy from human military capabilities, or whether it made them too valuable to remain isolated. The answer would determine the future of galactic civilization. The galactic network hummed with unprecedented activity as the security footage from Kepler 186f spread across civilized space. Military analysts from dozens of species downloaded the recordings, studying every frame with growing amazement and concern. What had begun as a routine mining incident had become the most significant military intelligence discovery in galactic history. Admiral Zix of the Centauri Defense Force watched the footage for the 7th time, his 4 eyes tracking the humans' movements with professional interest. His species had fought in 17 major conflicts across the galaxy, earning a reputation as skilled tacticians and warriors. Yet these 3 humans had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded his most elite units. Their improvisation speed is unprecedented, he noted in his report to the Centauri High Command. They convert industrial equipment into effective weapons in minutes. Their tactical adaptation occurs in real time, faster than our computer-assisted battle systems. Similar reports flooded in from military commands across the galaxy. The Andromedan War College requested copies of the footage for their tactical training programs. The Quantum Consortium's Military Research Division began analyzing human combat psychology. Even the Peaceful Ethereal Collective studied the recordings, seeking to understand how beings could fight so effectively while maintaining moral constraints. In the Galactic Council chambers, The emergency session entered its third day. Delegates who had once laughed at human primitiveness now debated the implications of their military capabilities with grave concern. The footage had been analyzed by every major military organization in the galaxy, and the conclusions were unanimous. Humans represented a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. "We face an unprecedented situation," Ambassador Krill announced to the assembled delegates. "A species we classified as primitive has demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our most advanced forces." Commander Thess reviewed the tactical analysis reports that covered his desk. "Their casualty ratios are impossible by conventional standards. 3 individuals achieving a 40-to-1 kill ratio against Ravagers using improvised weapons defies every military doctrine we know." "The psychological profile is equally concerning," added Hive Queen Zara. "They combine ruthless efficiency with protective instincts toward non-combatants. They are willing to die for enemies who had shown them contempt." The debate had raged for hours over the proper response. Some delegates argued for immediate military intervention, suggesting that human capabilities posed an existential threat to galactic civilization. Others proposed diplomatic engagement, hoping to channel human abilities toward peaceful purposes. "We cannot ignore the moral implications," observed Delegate Moore from the Ethereal Collective. "These beings saved lives at the cost of their own safety. Their actions demonstrate ethical standards that surpass many of our member species." "Ethics do not diminish military threat," Vex from the Quantum Consortium replied coldly. "A species capable of such tactical brilliance could conquer half the galaxy with proper equipment and motivation." The central display showed tactical simulations run by the Council's military computers. Human combat doctrine extrapolated from the mining station footage proved devastatingly effective against conventional galactic forces. Their ability to adapt and improvise made them nearly impossible to predict or counter. "Look at these projections," Krill said, highlighting the simulation results. "Human forces equipped with standard galactic technology could defeat armies 10 times their size. Their tactical innovation compensates for any technological disadvantage. But they have shown no aggressive intentions," Moore argued. "Their application to join the Council expressed desires for peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit." "Intentions can change," Thess replied grimly. "What happens when they discover how we dismissed their application, how we laughed at their offer of military service?" The question created an uncomfortable silence in the chamber. The recorded footage of the Council's initial session showed delegates mocking human capabilities with dismissive laughter. If humans ever learned of their rejection and the reasons behind it, their response could be catastrophic. "We need to consider damage control," Vex suggested. "Our intelligence networks indicate that humans are unaware of our initial evaluation. We could approach them as if their application is still under consideration." "Deception is inadvisable," Zara warned. "Species with their level of tactical intelligence would likely detect dishonesty. Such discovery could turn potential allies into confirmed enemies." The debate was interrupted when a priority transmission arrived from Earth. The message had been transmitted on open galactic frequencies, ensuring that every civilization in the network would receive it simultaneously. The sender was identified as Captain Tom Bradley, the same human who had led the defense of the mining station. "This should be interesting," Krill muttered, activating the message display. Bradley appeared on the central screen, his image transmitted from what appeared to be a simple communication facility on Earth. He wore a clean military uniform, and his expression was calm but serious. Behind him, other humans could be seen working at primitive computer terminals. "Greetings to the Galactic Council and all member civilizations," Bradley began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "I am Captain Tom Bradley of the Earth Defense Force. We know that recent events have brought human capabilities to your attention." The delegates exchanged worried glances. The humans knew about the footage and its distribution across the galactic network. "We are aware that our species has been classified as primitive and unworthy of galactic contact," Bradley continued. We know that our application for council membership was rejected and filed away for review in 1,000 years. Commander. Thess felt his blood turn cold. The humans had discovered their dismissal and the contemptuous reasoning behind it. We want you to understand that we harbor no resentment for your decision, Bradley said, his tone remaining diplomatic, despite the implications of his words. We recognize that our technology appears primitive compared to your advanced civilizations. Zara buzzed with nervous energy. The humans' calm acceptance of their dismissal somehow made the situation more threatening than angry demands would have been. However, recent events have demonstrated that technology is not the only measure of a species' value, Bradley observed. The Drakmori workers at the mining station learned that sometimes primitive weapons and skilled hands can accomplish what advanced systems cannot. The message paused as Bradley consulted notes outside the camera's view. When he returned his attention to the recording, his expression had grown more serious. We know that our tactical capabilities have been analyzed and discussed throughout the galactic community, he continued. Military organizations across the galaxy are studying our methods and evaluating the threat we might represent to established power structures. Krill realized that human intelligence networks had penetrated galactic communications far more effectively than anyone had imagined. They knew about the military analyses, the tactical simulations, even the Council's emergency sessions. Let me be clear about Earth's position, Bradley said, his voice taking on the tone of formal diplomatic communication. We have no intention of challenging the galactic order or threatening any civilization. We seek only the opportunity to contribute to the common good and defend those who cannot defend themselves. The camera angle shifted slightly, showing more of the facility behind Bradley. The equipment was indeed primitive by galactic standards, but it was being operated with impressive efficiency by humans who clearly understood its capabilities. We know that some of you consider us dangerous, Bradley continued. You are correct. We are dangerous to those who would harm innocent beings. We are dangerous to predators who prey upon the weak. We are dangerous to anyone who believes that might makes right. Vex felt a chill at the human's matter-of-fact admission. There was no boasting, no threats, just a calm statement of fact that carried more weight than any aggressive declaration. But we are not dangerous to those who seek peace and cooperation, Bradley added. We proved that at the mining station, where we risked our lives to save beings who had shown us nothing but contempt, our actions there reflect our true nature. The message was approaching its conclusion, and the delegates waited with growing tension to hear humanity's demands or ultimatums. The Galactic Council faces a choice, Bradley announced. You can continue to dismiss us as primitive and irrelevant, maintaining the isolation that has kept our species apart. Or you can recognize that the galaxy faces threats that require all of our combined strengths to address. The screen showed star charts marking the locations of Ravager attacks, pirate raids, and other threats across the galactic frontier. The pattern revealed a growing wave of violence that conventional forces had been unable to stop. We make no demands and issue no threats, Bradley concluded. We simply offer our services to any civilization that needs someone to stand the line when everything else fails. You know where to find us. The transmission ended, leaving their council chamber in stunned silence. The humans had turned their dismissal into a position of strength, offering their proven capabilities to anyone who needed them. They had transformed rejection into opportunity. They have outmaneuvered us completely, Krill admitted after several minutes of silence. They know we need their capabilities, and they are offering them freely to anyone who asks. It is brilliant, Thess acknowledged grudgingly. Instead of demanding recognition, they have made themselves indispensable. Every frontier world threatened by Ravagers will want human protection. And every military organization will want to study their tactics, Zara added. They have created demand for their services without appearing aggressive or threatening. The implications were clear. Within months, human advisors and military units would be spread across the galaxy, their tactical innovations adopted by dozens of civilizations. Earth would become the informal military capital of the galactic community, despite being officially classified as primitive. "We need to create a new classification," Krill announced. "Something that acknowledges their capabilities while maintaining diplomatic flexibility." The vote was unanimous. Earth would be reclassified as a Class 1 restricted species, not because they were primitive, but because they were too valuable to alienate and too dangerous to ignore. The final irony was not lost on any of the delegates. The species they had dismissed as a joke had become the galaxy's unofficial guardians, standing watch on the frontier while more advanced civilizations conducted their business in safety. The humans had proven that sometimes the best warriors were those who fought not for conquest but for protection. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating them again.